Thank you so much for joining me today. Tell me the coolest thing from last year's earthquakes.
I thought the most interesting sequence last year was what we called the Ulaniak swarm. And this was a swarm that was in northwestern Alaska, north of Kobuk. And the swarm, we've had it in the past for a few years that we've noticed it. And it seems to be seasonal. So it ramps up in the fall and is sort of over by early winter. But the fact that it occurs seasonally is just really interesting. We don't know why. So that's, to me, that's the most interesting of the sequences that I highlighted in this report.
There were about 40,000 earthquakes recorded last year. How does that compare to previous years, especially since the 2018 earthquake that had a lot of aftershocks?
Yeah, so 2018 was a really big year. I wasn't here yet with the Earthquake Center, but we had about 50,000 earthquakes that year. And this year we only have 40,000. So a lot of the swarms and sequences that occurred in 2018 have died down. We're not really tracking many of those anymore because there's so few aftershocks at this point for those sequences. So that's a lot of the reason why we have about 10,000 fewer earthquakes this year than in 2018.
Tell me about the largest earthquake in Alaska in 2024, and how does that compare to the world's largest quakes for last year?
So the largest earthquake in Alaska in 2024 was in the Aleutians. There was actually two of them. They were within a matter of hours of each other. They were south of Adak Island in the central Aleutians, and they were magnitude 6.3s. The first one happened on December 8th, and the second one happened a few hours later. And then a third one happened a couple minutes after the second one. It was a magnitude 6.1. So those were the largest in Alaska. The largest in the mainland was a magnitude 5.9 off the coast of Port Alexander.
How does that compare to previous years?
Well, in 2023, we had a magnitude 7.2 in the Shumagon Islands. And then in 2021, we had that magnitude 8.2 off the coast of Chignik. So it's smaller, much smaller events this year than we have the last few years.
Another quake highlighted was the Salcha quake. Tell me about that.
So that one was we felt that here in the Earthquake Center. It was a magnitude 5.3, the biggest event in the Fairbanks area in quite a number of years. And it was the most widely felt in Alaska this year, with over 1,000 felt reports. So it was a big one for us in the interior.
What do you think is the most significant information that came out of this report?
Just that we have earthquakes all over the state, and so it's really important that we have seismic stations all over the state. And since we've had this adoption of seismic stations from the transportable array, we have a much larger footprint of seismic stations in Alaska, and that's really helped us to understand the seismicity in some of these regions that were previously not monitored, the Northwest, the Northeast, and Western Alaska.